Lila never imagined that her mother, Karen, could be capable of murder. But when Jason went missing, shocking secrets unraveled that would change her life and her unborn child's forever. Lila's life at 16 seemed almost perfect from the outside. She was a bright student, well liked by her classmates, and the kind of daughter any parent would boast about. Her small town admired her family for their seemingly stable, picture-perfect home. Lila's days were filled with schoolwork, piano lessons, and helping her mother, Karen, with household chores. On weekends, she spent time with her boyfriend, Jason, who had quickly become her closest confidant. He was charming, attentive, and always made her feel special in a way that made her heart flutter. Together, they dreamed of a future that felt just within reach, despite their youth. Everything changed one afternoon when Lila discovered she was pregnant. She felt a surge of conflicting emotions: fear, confusion, and strangely, hope. Jason reassured her in the limited ways a 16-year-old could understand, promising he would support her. Lila, however, felt an undercurrent of tension at home. Her mother, Karen, was never one to accept imperfection easily. She expected absolute obedience and had always controlled the family's image. The thought of disappointing her mother terrified Lila, yet she wanted to face this challenge with Jason by her side. In the weeks that followed, Lila tried to maintain a sense of normalcy, but Jason's disappearance shattered that fragile balance. One evening, he simply didn't return home. The anxiety began as a quiet, gnawing feeling that grew louder with each passing hour. Lila called his friends, retraced his steps, and asked neighbors, but there was no trace of him. The police were called, and their inquiries raised more questions than answers. Lila's trust in the world began to crumble. Even within her home, a place she had always associated with safety, things felt strange. Karen's reactions were unusual. There was a calmness that didn't match the panic Lila expected from a mother of a missing boy. A neighbor casually mentioned seeing Karen leaving the house late that night, a detail that gnawed at Lila's mind. She struggled to reconcile the woman she had loved and trusted with the growing suspicion that something was terribly wrong. Memories she had dismissed before, the tense glances between Jason and her mother, subtle remarks Karen made about controlling Jason, suddenly seemed like pieces of a dark puzzle she had been blind to. As the first week turned into the second, Lila felt the weight of isolation pressing down on her. She was pregnant, alone, and consumed by fear for Jason's safety. The life she had imagined, filled with the laughter of a child and love shared with Jason, now seemed like a distant dream overshadowed by a creeping sense of dread. The first cracks in the perfect facade of her home had appeared, and Lila couldn't ignore the feeling that the real danger was much closer than she had ever imagined. The days after Jason's disappearance felt endless for Lila. Every phone call, every knock at the door made her heart race, but no news came. She replayed the moments leading up to his vanishing over and over in her mind, searching for signs she might have missed. His absence left a hollow ache, not only in her heart but in her home, where the air seemed heavier, suffused with unspoken tension. Karen's calm demeanor began to feel unnerving, a silence so deliberate it made Lila question everything she thought she knew about her mother. Then came the call that changed everything. A private investigator hired by Jason's family had uncovered something chilling: traces of blood in Karen's basement. Lila's first reaction was disbelief. She couldn't reconcile the idea that her mother, the woman who had raised her, protected her, and tucked her into bed every night, could be involved in something so horrific. Yet the evidence was undeniable. It wasn't the kind of accident one could dismiss. It suggested something darker, something deliberate. Lila's mind raced as she tried to recall anything unusual from the days before Jason disappeared. She remembered how her mother had insisted she and Jason spend less time alone together, how small warnings had seemed almost obsessive. Jason had mentioned feeling uneasy around Karen, his voice tinged with fear. At the time, Lila had dismissed it as teenage drama, a minor clash with her mother. Now, the details that once seemed trivial gained a sinister weight. Investigators searched the house thoroughly, uncovering more clues hidden behind walls and beneath floorboards. Items belonging to Jason were found carefully concealed, as if someone had gone to great lengths to erase his presence. The discovery was horrifying, a revelation that made Lila realize she had been living in a house that held secrets darker than she could have imagined. Every memory she had of her mother now seemed tainted, each act of control or manipulation hinting at a far more dangerous reality. The unease that had been simmering in Lila for weeks now became an all-consuming fear. She began noticing patterns in her mother's behavior that had previously gone unrecognized: subtle intimidation, calculated words designed to provoke guilt, and an unyielding need to dominate everyone in her orbit. The basement, once a place of mundane storage, had transformed in Lila's mind into a symbol of hidden terror. The realization settled over her like a shadow. Jason's disappearance was not random, and the danger she had ignored was much closer than she had ever dared to imagine. Every step forward in the investigation deepened the sense of dread. Lila felt trapped between disbelief and undeniable truth, caught in a nightmare where the person she had trusted most could be the architect of unimaginable violence. Her home, once a sanctuary, now seemed like a trap filled with secrets that threatened to destroy everything she had once loved. As the investigation into Jason's disappearance unfolded, a chilling pattern emerged that shook Lila to her core. Detectives delved into Karen's past, uncovering unsettling details that painted a portrait of a woman far more dangerous than anyone had suspected. Former neighbors spoke hesitantly about people who had vanished after conflicts with Karen, incidents that had previously been dismissed as coincidences or misunderstandings. Lila felt a cold knot tighten in her stomach. The mother she had adored, the woman she had trusted above all, was not who she had believed her to be. Lila replayed every interaction she had ever had with Karen, searching for signs she might have missed. She recalled the subtle ways her mother controlled the household, from the way she monitored friendships to the insistence on perfect grades and appearances. At the time, these behaviors had seemed strict, even overbearing, but now they appeared as pieces of a carefully constructed web of dominance. Lila's mind churned with fear and disbelief. How could she have lived in the same house for 16 years? And never seen the darkness lurking beneath her mother's calm exterior? As investigators sifted through forensic evidence, the horrifying truth became impossible to ignore. Jason's death had not been a crime of impulse. It had been meticulously planned. There was no sign of struggle that couldn't have been staged, no evidence left by accident. It was calculated, precise, and cruel. Lila's heart ached as the reality sank in. The man she loved had been trapped, his fate sealed by someone she should have been able to trust completely. Then came the discovery of hidden video footage. Investigators had found cameras carefully concealed around the house, capturing moments no one should have witnessed. When the footage was reviewed, the horror became undeniable. It showed Jason arriving home, unaware of the danger he faced. Karen's movements were deliberate, controlled, and cold. Lila watched, paralyzed, as her mother cornered him, leading him to the basement in a way that left no doubt about her intentions. The images burned into her mind, a horrifying confirmation of her worst fears. The weight of betrayal pressed down on Lila from every direction. The woman she had loved and depended on was capable of murder. Every memory of childhood comfort, the hugs, the bedtime stories, the meals shared at the dinner table was now tainted with fear and disbelief. Lila felt the first real stirrings of urgency. She could no longer stay passive. The truth about her mother's violence had emerged, leaving Lila trapped in a reality where survival, for herself and her unborn child, was now the only priority. The life she had imagined with Jason was gone, replaced by a dangerous new reality that she had to navigate carefully, step by step. Fear had become a constant companion for Lila. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow cast by the dim lights of her home, reminded her that the woman she had once trusted without question was now a threat to her very existence. She could no longer stay in the house safely, yet leaving felt impossible. It was the home of her childhood, the place where she had taken her first steps, celebrated birthdays, and shared laughter with her family. Now, it was a trap. The walls that had once offered comfort had become instruments of terror, filled with secrets and evidence of her mother's crimes. Planning her escape required caution. Lila spent days observing Karen, noting routines and moments when she would be distracted. Every detail mattered. She had to ensure she could leave without alerting her mother, knowing that any misstep could lead to confrontation or worse. The fear of discovery weighed heavily on her. Yet with each passing hour, staying in the house felt more dangerous than the risk of leaving. Lila realized that survival and the safety of her unborn child depended entirely on careful timing and strategic action. The night she chose to leave was tense and silent. She gathered a few essential items, anything that might help her start over: clothes, important documents, and a small keepsake of Jason, the only tangible connection to the life she had lost. She moved quietly through the house, her heart pounding with every step, aware that one sound could betray her presence. The streets outside felt alien, yet freeing. For the first time in weeks, she felt the faintest glimmer of hope. She had escaped the immediate danger, but the shadow of her mother's actions would follow her for a long time. Once she was safe, the reality of the situation sank in. Karen had been arrested, and the evidence against her was overwhelming. The community was stunned, unable to comprehend that a mother could commit such a horrific act. For Lila, the relief was tempered by grief. She mourned Jason, whose life had been cut short, and the mother she had loved and trusted. Her world had been irrevocably changed, yet she recognized that she had survived something extraordinary. In the weeks that followed, Lila focused on healing and protecting her child. Friends, extended family, and law enforcement became her support system, helping her navigate the aftermath of betrayal and trauma. She began to document what had happened, hoping that her experience could serve as a warning to others and perhaps prevent similar tragedies. Though the shadow of her mother's crimes lingered, Lila found strength in her own resilience. Survival, she realized, was only the beginning. Rebuilding her life and protecting the future of her child would be her ultimate triumph. Months after escaping her mother's home, Lila faced a new chapter of her life, one defined by both fragility and hope. The trauma of Jason's death and the betrayal of her mother lingered like a shadow, but she refused to let it define her or her unborn child. Each day became a careful balance of healing, preparation, and reclaiming a sense of normalcy that had been ripped away. She surrounded herself with people who offered genuine care, friends who had remained loyal, extended family who opened their homes, and counselors who helped her navigate the overwhelming emotions of grief, fear, and resilience. Giving birth to her daughter was a moment of triumph amid the darkness. Holding the tiny, fragile life in her arms, Lila felt a surge of determination she had never known. This child was a symbol of survival, a beacon of hope that life could continue despite unimaginable pain. Every little milestone, first smiles, tiny fingers wrapping around hers, the sound of soft coos reminded Lila that life could still be beautiful. Her daughter's presence gave her purpose, grounding her in the reality that she was no longer a passive victim but a mother responsible for shaping a safe, loving future. Meanwhile, the legal system moved swiftly against Karen. The trial revealed every chilling detail of her calculated crimes. Forensic evidence, witness testimonies, and the hidden footage of Jason's final moments painted a damning picture. The public followed the case closely, shocked at the extent of the manipulation and violence perpetrated by someone they had trusted to nurture and protect. When the verdict was read, life imprisonment without parole, it was a moment of closure, but also a bitter reminder of the loss that could never be undone. Lila felt a complex mix of relief, sorrow, and cautious peace, knowing justice had been served even if it could never bring Jason back. In the months that followed, Lila focused on rebuilding her life. She returned to school, determined to complete her education and provide stability for her daughter. She documented her experience, not only as a personal record but as a warning for others about the dangers of controlling relationships and hidden violence within families. Speaking to support groups and advocacy organizations, she found a new purpose in helping others navigate trauma and regain control of their lives. Though scars remained, Lila's story became one of resilience. She had survived betrayal, loss, and unimaginable fear, emerging stronger and more determined than ever. Her life, once defined by fear and uncertainty, now centered on love, protection, and the promise of a future she could shape for herself and her daughter. In the face of darkness, Lila found light, a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the power of survival.